Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Now think of a state which is the richest in the country by way of per capita income. 1. Number 2, it's a small state, a relatively small state in India, but its people are doing very well all over the country and looking really prominent in every field, from civil services to armed forces to showbiz to entrepreneurship to sports. In fact, sports, the state which has less than 2% of India's population gets more than 50% of all of India's medals. Now, if you have a state like that, then what do you do to ruin it and ruin its story? So trust your politicians to do that. And I'm talking about the state of Haryana, which happens to be my native state as well. Now, Haryana is the richest state in the country. Now, this is not an affront to Goa or Sikkim. Those are very small states. I should qualify to say the richest state with more than 50 lakh or more than 20 lakh population, because Sikkim and Goa together are less than 10% of Haryana. And no affront also to union territories like Delhi, Puducherry, Chandigarh, etc. So, what has the state done? The state also is a magnet for investments from all over India and in fact all over the world. A lot of the FDI is coming into India, from Honda to Google to all kinds of things are coming into Haryana, mostly in Gurgaon, but also to other areas. In fact, Haryana has now been expanding this Gurgaon region and taking more and more land and calling it New Gurgaon, Ultra New Gurgaon, Gurgaon 2, 3, 4, whatever they want to call it. So this whole area is coming up as a large island, as an enlarging island of prosperity for the state and for the country. So what do you do then? In Government of India, you don't follow the old principle of don't mend what isn't broken. You do the opposite. You mend what isn't broken, and in the process you break what isn't broken. That is what the politicians of Haryana have done now, because they passed a new law in Haryana called, that law is so nutty that when I read it, I'm amazed that a progressive state has passed such a law. But I will tell you that Haryana has faced these suicidal thoughts in the past as well. This is called Local Candidates Bill 2020. Sounds very innocuous. What this law says is that henceforth no employer in Haryana can hire more than 25% of his or her workforce below the salary range of 50,000 rupees per month from any place but in Haryana, which means 75% of all jobs carrying a salary of below 50,000 rupees a month have to be given to Haryana domiciles. Haryana is a very small state. So all these people then have to find their employees in Haryana. Now, this has been cleared by the governor. In the past, this was passed, the governor referred it to the president. Now it's been done in a hurry, and I will tell you the politics behind it. Because behind the worst ideas, there is the worst kind of politics, which is the politics of survival. Because when you can't deliver people a lollipop, so what do? Give them? You give them a soother, just to put it in their mouths so the baby stops crying. That is what politicians do when they are in deep trouble. Now, trouble in Haryana for the ruling combination comes from the fact that BJP failed to get a majority this time. BJP fell about 15-17 short of a majority. The Congress party was just a little below the BJP, not that far. But a third party, that is the JJP, headed by Dushyant Chautala, who is a grandnephew of Om Prakash Chautala. His party got about 10 seats or has about 10 seats. I use the word about deliberately because it's 10, give or take 1 or 2, because at any given point of time somebody is estranged and says I am not a member of the party, then somebody says resignation is not accepted, etc., etc. Anyway, so that party, the reason BJP did not get a majority was that the Jats were not willing to vote for it. because BJP had a non-Jat chief minister in Haryana after a long time, and also BJP did not have such a support in Haryana for Modi, in Modi's name in the assembly election. In Modi's name, they had swept the parliament election. So, a lot of the Jat vote, which would have normally gone to Om Prakash Chautala's original party, now run by his other son, it did not go there. It went to the party that Dushyant Chautala created by, so he created a new party and he took away his granduncle's party's vote bank, while his own father was in Tihar jail. His own father and grandfather were both convicted and jailed for several years for corruption. So he set up this party. He got about 10 seats. Now 10 seats in a small state like Haryana is leverage, because that's what BJP needed. If they got these 10, then they had to buy up a couple here and there. There was also that fellow called Gopal Kanda who was facing trial, you would remember, for the alleged abetment of suicide of a young woman who used to work as a stewardess in a 2-aircraft airline that is set up and then shut down very quickly. So you can always get him. So BJP put the numbers together and set up its government. Now if Dushyant Chautala goes, then BJP's government falls. BJP's government, it's very crucial for BJP to hold on to its government in Haryana, because Haryana is next door to Delhi, and Haryana also holds the key to the kind of muscle power, manpower kind of crowds that come into any protests in Delhi. Further, because Dushyant Chautala joined with the BJP, he was able to drive a very hard bargain. So he has a party of 10 MLAs. Again, one odd is always transient. 10 MLAs, but he himself is Deputy Chief Minister with more than 10 portfolios. So this is the biggest leveraged hijack of a state government in India at this point. There have been others in the past, but at this point, this is the biggest. So Chautala has a lot to lose. So one, if Chautala pulls out of the coalition, then the BJP falls. BJP cannot lose a state next to Delhi, particularly as the two states sort of next to it, that is Punjab and Rajasthan, are with the Congress party, and these are the days of the farmers' protests. So BJP wants to own Haryana. But if Chautala goes, young Chautala goes, then the BJP government goes. Then what is the compulsion with young Chautala? The compulsion is his voter base is Jats. The Jats by and large are estranged with the BJP. A few years ago, you would remember there were very violent and strong protests by Jats in Haryana seeking job reservations. Now some of that happened, was struck down by the court. So that has been simmering, and now in the Jat community, which is the dominant powerful community of Haryana, and which feels disempowered, because BJP is a party which has not empowered the Jats for its own reasons, and they think that they are making up for it by having Dushyant Chautala in their camp. Now those Jats are by and large sympathetic to the farmers' protests. So that has brought in pressure on Dushyant Chautala to leave the coalition. So far he keeps on saying, the moment I believe that MSP is not available to my farmers, I will leave. But if MSP is available, why should we complain? Let us watch the situation. But it's a very delicate, almost untenable situation. In the process, his uncle has resigned from the assembly in support of the farmers' agitation. And the Jats right now are very irritated with Chautala. So Chautala has to give them something. That's the reason I said that when you can't give somebody the lollipop, he can't give them the withdrawal of the farm bills. So he's given a crybaby a soother, which means put it in the baby's mouth and the baby will keep sucking at it. Now, if you think that grown-up adult voters are like babies, good luck to you, but that's what they've tried. So what does this law say? This law says that 75% jobs by all employers in Haryana. Employers means companies, societies, trusts, limited liability partnerships, partnership firms, anybody who employs more than 10 people has to have 75% who are Haryanvi domiciles. How is that defined? Born in Haryana or having lived in Haryana for 15 years. Now, to implement this, first of all, this limits the opportunity for all the others. But to implement this, then you need the whole tamjam of a bureaucracy. What this says is that there will be an authorized officer who you will go to say, I have this many Haryanvi employees. That authorized officer can also visit your premises, which means raid it at a 1 day notice, but he shall do so only between 6 AM and 6 PM in the evening. He will not come at night. Thank you very much. But he can raid it. Then that one has to be convinced that you have 75%. Then he takes a decision that's binding on you. If you want to challenge that decision, there is an appellate officer, not less than the rank of a deputy commissioner. Your authorized officer is about the rank of an SDO. You have to register on a portal set up for this purpose. Every person in Haryana seeking employment below 50,000 has to register on the same portal. The employer can only hire from this portal, not from anywhere else. So this is the return of employment exchange. I don't know how many of you remember, there used to be an institution called the Employment Exchange when I was in college, and you had to register there, and every couple of weeks you will get a postcard talking about some vacancies here and there. And then Government of India also had a publication called Rozgar Samachar or Employment News. India has moved on a great deal from there, but now you are going back there. So to apply, you register on the portal, that's your employment exchange if you want a job under 50,000. And if you want to hire people under 50,000 as an employer, you also register on the portal, and you then have to convince this multi-level inspectorate that you have 75% bona fide genuine Haryanvis. Mark my words, because for each one then certification is required, checking of documents is required, domicile certificates are required, attested copies of domicile certificates are required. Then sub-inspector will say whether these are genuine or not. And if you are seen to be violating any of this, then you can be fined at various levels. Then this is such a wonderful law, wonderful obviously I say tongue-in-cheek. This is such a wonderful law and so breath-stopping that it says that no legal proceedings can be brought against any officer who takes any action based on this law on any employer as long as he is acting in good faith. Now, who will determine good faith? I know that all of the IAS in the country would love to have it. All of the IPS in the country would love to have laws like that, that they say it doesn't matter who a cop has killed, even if it's a wrong encounter, as long as it was done in good faith. Similarly, every IAS officer would say that this is what I've been asking for. Why do you send CBC, CBI, CAG, that three horrible C's after me after I retire? Just give me a law like this. Then, this is, if the joke was not on us, if the joke was not on Haryana, which is now one of the engines of India's growth, you would laugh. But really, you want to cry, because this gets even more fun. It says that while the 75% have to be from the state of Haryana, no, Haryana has a bunch of districts, new districts are coming up. So in fact, if you ask me immediately, I can't give you the count. The districts coming up all the time. So the employer has to make sure that not more than 10% of people employed are from one district. However, if the employer so wishes, he can have less than 10% people from any one district. Once again, everything will go to multi-level inspectorate. So I can see in government of Haryana, which is Haryana bureaucracy at that level, at the inspector level particularly, is by no means the least corrupt in the country. But with this, I see several new ATMs, automated teller machines, opening up in that system. Because discretion doesn't stop here, discretion carries on, because an employer under this law can also seek an exemption from the law saying, boss, I need people in this area, people of these abilities are not available here, so please allow me to hire from outside. Now, who will determine that? This will again be a bunch of inspectors, or as I said, a hierarchy of inspectorates. So they will come and assess. Now those inspectors can decide whether to give you an exemption or to deny you an exemption, or to tell you, no. We know that these people are not there, but you take local people and you train them. Now, even if you train them, who's to certify then that they are good enough or not? Nobody will do it. Employers will just walk away. Also, just look at the irony. A state in India says that you have to have 75% of your employees from here. But if you think that employees with the abilities that you want are not available here and you want them from outside, you come to the government will exempt you so you can get from outside. So in this process, the Republic of Haryana, within the Sovereign Republic of Haryana, within the Sovereign Republic of India, will now be issuing the equivalent of H-1B visas to fellow Indians from the other states in the country. This really, you need very special talent to come up with a disaster like this. Then at every level you have appeals, there is a right to enter. The more I read it, the more I see trouble written all over it. Besides the fact that this runs afoul of several articles of the Constitution. 14, equality before the law. 16, no discrimination in employment based on where you are living, that is 16(2) and 3. Article 19, that is your freedom to follow any profession that you wish to, etc. Other states have done it also. Andhra has tried to do it. That is now under challenge in Andhra High Court. I suspect this also will not pass muster. India will have to suddenly acquire a very different view of its constitution to be able to allow this law to go through. And really, this will destroy Haryana's growth story, because what will happen is, one, employers will now start a job freeze below 50,000. Actually, that below 50,000 is also a complication. What is 50,000? Then somebody will say 50,000 is only basic pay. So somebody will now determine 50,000. So that again will be inspectors. So you will check, acha, aapne to isko 30,000 ka hai, but you are giving free lunch, so that is worth this much also. And you are giving pick up and drop from home, so that is this much. This will ruin the employment environment in Haryana. So employers will announce employment freezes. Employers, a lot of the IT employers are today location agnostic. They will base their employees elsewhere and get them to work from remote areas, remote locations. Somebody can work from Bangalore, or they will shift to Noida, Greater Noida, because that's a huge development area coming in. Now, BJP might say from one BJP state to another state, but the sufferer will be Haryana. And if for some reason they don't want to go to Noida, Greater Noida, they will go back to where they used to go earlier, which is Bangalore. So Haryana's success through Gurgaon of making Gurgaon the new Bangalore of India, or Gurgaon the new Silicon Valley of India, will be a matter of the past. See you later. This will be over. So that's where we are. A lot of the damage to this country has been done by politicians just passing laws to fool people. And I can do no better on this than remind the Haryana government, Haryana Assembly, Haryana Chief Minister and Dushyant Chautala, his BJP's ally, of something that Narendra Modi used to say in his 2014 campaign. In his 2014 campaign, he used to mock at Sonia Gandhi's rights laws, right to education, right to food, right to this, right to that. In fact, some of us also used to mock it, saying that she will now have a right against a right to good weather, or a right to India winning all cricket matches, etc. So Narendra Modi would tell a story, and the story was that some farmer was walking past some jungle and suddenly was confronted by a tiger, and tiger then crouched as if to attack the farmer and eat him up. And the farmer said, wait, if you attack me, I will shoot you. So the tiger said, but where is your gun? You don't have any gun, how will you shoot me? The farmer said, don't worry, here is my license. Sonia ji has given me a license to get a gun. I will shoot you. The tiger says, but you don't have a gun, and eats up the farmer. So this is exactly what Narendra Modi's own party is doing to the people of Haryana. They are giving them a license without a gun. They should be creating more jobs. They should be creating an environment whereby more investment comes and Haryana becomes an even stronger and bigger magnet as a progressive state. Haryana is a very well connected state, very talented people, very hardworking people. Haryana also then has to focus on its education system. Haryana's government education system is rotten like almost any other states. So it's producing more and more people, more and more young people who are unemployable, particularly in modern industries. And a lot of the language that's being used by Haryana government, that this will discourage migratory labor. That means people who come in from UP and Bihar, etc., for low paid jobs, because that also leads to the growth of slums. Now, can you make the rest of India a colony? And remember that Bihar and Uttar Pradesh also have BJP governments. If anything, they have stabler BJP or BJP alliance governments than in Haryana. So I can only hope that somebody blows the whistle on this, and we do not wait for the courts ultimately to strike it down. Because if it's left to that, then I think a lot of investment will freeze in Haryana, hiring will freeze in Haryana, and a lot of people will shift. This is India. This is the Republic of India. People have the right to go from one state to the other. States like Haryana, Punjab benefit because cheaper labor comes from UP and Bihar. That is how the labor market moves. If you become an exclusive economic zone of the entire state with your own laws and restrictions, then I would say good luck to you. I am going to Noida.